Hello, I'm Grace Hare. Let's talk about speech delivery. The first element of speech is volume. That's how loud or how soft a person talks. A bad example would be someone who is either way too loud or way too quiet in their speech. But a good example would be someone who finds somewhere in the middle so that their audience can understand what they are saying. The second element is eye contact. Eye contact is how well a person can look up at their audience. A bad example is if someone were to look off to the side or down at their feet or at their note cards instead of. A good example being engaging with their audience and looking up. It also asserts a sort of authority or dominance throughout the building, so it makes people want to listen to you more. The third element is the rate at which a person speaks. Now, rate is how fast or how slow someone speaks in their speech. A bad example of this would be someone who speaks far too fast for someone to understand or way too slow. A good example would be someone who speaks somewhere in the middle where it's not too fast or too slow and everyone can comprehend everything they're saying. The next element is pitch. Pitch is how high or how low you speak while giving your presentation. A bad example of this would be if you're speaking too high for anyone to understand or too low for anyone to understand. There's lots of people who have issues hearing sounds that are too high or too low, so it's best to keep your voice somewhere in the middle so that everyone can understand what you are trying to say. The next element is facial expressions. Now, facial expressions are things that you do with your face to try and keep the audience involved and engaged and also possibly trigger their emotions. For a bad example, that would be if someone were to go through a whole speech talking about how we need to save the ocean with their face like this. The ocean is getting polluted and it's really bad. Or if I were to say the ocean is really polluted and it's getting really bad, you can tell that there's a clear difference and a lot more emphasis on the second one. The sixth element is enunciation/articulation. So this is how well the person can say their words. For a bad example, that would be someone who doesn't really say their consonants very well and blends their words together. So if I were to say, I just opened my notebook and I found this in it. Whereas if I were to say, I just found my notebook and this is what I found in it. The seventh element is gestures. Those are things that you do, for example, with your hands to keep the audience more engaged. A bad example of this was if I stood like a stick throughout my whole presentation. But a good example would be if I use my hands as emphasis on what I'm trying to say. So if I were saying, the ocean needs your help, it makes a lot more emphasis than me saying, the ocean needs your help. The eighth element is pause/vocal fillers. We'll start with pause. Pauses are when the person who's speaking takes short little breaks to add emphasis on what they're saying. So I may say something like, the ocean needs your help. That would be a good example. A bad example would be, the ocean needs your help, so let's go do this and this and this. It doesn't add as much emphasis on the ocean needing help. Now, vocal fillers are things like things like that. You want to have the least amount as possible of those throughout your entire speech because they will distract the audience from what is really important in your speech. The last element is posture. That's how you present yourself to everyone. So, for example, if you're sitting like I am right now, you want to make sure that you're sitting up straight in your chair instead of slouching down like this. And if you're standing up, once again, you want to be standing up straight with your shoulders back instead of making yourself slouched and looking bored. Those are all the elements. Thank you for watching.